Here, let's do Unit 2 today, Constitutionalism. After this, we'll go to issue wise because there are certain philosophical concepts we need to write down. It's mostly dictation only. I'll just dictate a few things to you. Unit 2 is philosophical foundations, constitutionalism, that how, on what basis does Indian administration functions? What values, under what values does Indian administration functions? Now, what is the book according to which Indian government functions, or what establishes Indian legal system? The Constitution of India. Yes. So syllabus is philosophical and constitutional framework of government, salient features and value premises, constitutionalism, political culture, bureaucracy and development. The first thing we need to understand is the what are the value premises and the philosophical foundation on which the government runs in India. Basically, philosophical foundations or value premises are the same thing, no different terms. So first, write down a few things, and I'll keep explaining accordingly. Now, think about something. If you study anything in the Constitution, where do you think is the first thing where these value premises or philosophical foundations of the Constitution or the government is written down? That according to what values should India be governed? Where is it written down? In the preamble. The preamble is a significant source of this, uh, significant value source of the Indian government, that how the government should be organized and what it should form. In the preamble. Now, uh, first philosophical principle is democracy. That's right, about democracy. The principle of democracy asserts that authority of the government is derived from the will of the people. Authority of the government is derived from the will of the people. This ensures will of the people. This ensures popular participation, accountability of the rulers to the ruled, accountability of the rulers to the ruled, and legitimacy of the administrative and political structure. So What does this mean? That these administrators are public servants, okay, and the authority that the state has, that authority stems from the democratic roots of administration. That people elect uh, political leaders who then work for people, and this administrative setup is there to work for people. Okay? Now, right further on. mm, Write something that Ambedkar. Basically, do you want to write down what we discussed just now, or you understand? You understand? Hmm. Write something about Ambedkar, that Dr. Ambedkar stated that democracy is not merely a form of government. The democracy is not merely a form of a government. He stated, quote, "It is essentially a form of society. It is essentially a form of society, comma, of associated living, comma, of associated living, comma, of conjoint communicated experience." Conjoint communicated experience. No. It is it is basically an attitude of it is basically an of respect, attitude of respect and reverence towards fellow men, unquote. Now just go through this line and just understand the significance of this line and how well you can use this line in every paper possible. That it is so beautifully written that it is an essential form of society. Democracy is a form of society, okay, of associated living, that people are living together in association, of conjoined communication, they're communicating with each other. Then it writes that it is basically an attitude of respect and reverence towards fellow men. So imagine that any form of democracy, if this is there, that means there is social democracy, economic democracy, and political democracy, all three of it, if we understand this slide. This is what Dr. Ambedkar said. Now, moving on to the next value premise. Okay, first, democracy. Next value premise. Now, in your GS4 ethics paper, there is a particular topic that you will study called ethical foundations of governance, or moral foundations of government, whatever the word is, or philosophical foundations of governance, I guess. There, all the notes you will find, right? All the notes you will find, all the notes would have written actually philosophers' names. That what is the philosophical foundation of governance? Okay, Plato said this, Aristotle said this said this, that philosopher said this. That is not what I mean. That is not how, as true public administration students, you should write the ethics answer. Why should what is the basis of governance? Why should government do governance? What is the first principle? Philosophical foundation does not mean we should write philosophers. Have we discussed any philosophers? No. Philosophical foundation means what is the reason that good governance should happen? What is the reason that good governance should happen? First, the foremost reason is good governance should happen because people have given you power in the first place to do governance, right? That means first point should be democracy is the first premise or first basis, philosophical basis of good governance. Yes? It is not what Plato said, Aristotle said, Immanuel Kant said, or Amartya Sen said. It's not talking about philosophy. It is talking about what are the values for which good governance should be there. What is the first value? That because it's a democracy. Administrators have power in a democracy because of what? Because people have given them that power. That you take this power and work for us. That is the philosophical foundation of good governance, isn't it? Yes. So these are the things that you use in there also. So paper two of your public administration paper should be used invariably across uh, at least GS2 and GS4. Okay. At least it should be used. Okay. So next value is socialism. Shaheen, we are discussing unit two. Okay? In unit two, we have discussed the very idea of democracy. I believe you understand democracy. You take notes from them. Okay? Next idea is socialism. Okay? Shaheen, have you watched the previous lectures? Yeah. Next is socialism. Now, what is socialism in the Indian context? How is socialism different in the Indian context? So, did our socialism, is India a socialist country? No. You say yes. You? Yes. 2:1. See, the Indian form of socialism, is it same as Russian form of socialism? Do you think it is same? Or see, the Indian form of socialism is named something called, what is it called, Akash? Hmm? Democratic socialism. Okay? Democratic socialism. Now, what does this democratic socialism mean? Understand this philosophically. Wherever you hear the term socialism, write this down what you understand right now. Okay? If you hear this term in India at least. देखो, Russian form of socialism was state creates all kinds of goods and services in an economy, and state owns all kinds of means of production. Okay? There is agricultural land that is owned by state. There are industries owned by state. This is everything that is owned by state. Anything that is produced is owned by state. And who controls the state? The proletariat. Yes. So whatever state is earning, that means people are earning. So it automatically means everything is owned by state. State is producing. Whom it is producing for everyone. That is the form of Russian form of socialism. State is owning major all the means of production, at least major means of production. In India, this idea is a bit different. Democratic socialism means not necessarily should state own everything. Private sector can own anything, individuals can own anything, produce anything, but whatever is the means of production or whatever is the fruits of production, whatever we are producing should be distributed equitably regardless of who owns it. That is the premise on which welfare state in India is based. Okay? Write this down. Welfare state in India is based. Okay. Democratic socialism. It's also called Nehruvian socialism or Fabian socialism. That means it does not matter who all are owning the means of production. What matters is whatever we are producing through those means of production are redistributed in society so that there is not a lot of difference between the rich and the poor. Okay, so that is the very idea of democratic socialism. And that is the premise of welfare state. That is why we tax goods that are luxury products, and we give subsidies on bus tickets, train tickets that are open to everyone. We give free ration to people, and we tax people who are earning more. Why? It's a very idea of welfare state. So that means democratic socialism inherently has an element of welfare. Okay, welfare means we would want to actively participate and create a society that is less inequitable, okay? And more focus on promoting equity. Okay? This means everyone has an equal chance to make it in life. Okay, so that is the very premise on which democratic socialism is based. That whoever is owning anything, it does not matter. Whatever is being produced should be equitably redistributed in society. Rich should not be too rich. Poor should not be too poor. That is the very idea. Now tell me something. Was India a socialist state before 1991? Yes. Is India a socialist state after 1991? Yes. You? No. You? What did I just explain? What is the Indian model of socialism? It is democratic socialism. Is India still democratic socialism? Why are you saying no? Write down socialism. The Indian concept of socialism is rooted in the idea of a welfare state. It aims for, rooted in the idea of welfare state, it aims for equitable distribution of wealth and resources, uh, come again, aims for equitable distribution of wealth, aims for equitable distribution of wealth and resources, and resources to reduce socio-economic inequalities, to reduce socio-economic inequalities. The state is seen, the state is seen as a key agency for social and economic transformation, for social and economic transformation. Right, Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru envisioned a socialist pattern of society where the principal means of production, principal means of production are under social ownership or control, are under social ownership or control, comma, and there is a progressive, and there is a progressive speeding up of production, progressive speeding up of production and equitable distribution. Here, his idea will also apply. Uh, Amartya Sen's capability approach will also apply. Write down that Amartya Sen, Amartya Sen's idea of capability approach, which says that when human capabilities increase, when human capabilities increase, it leads to increase in freedom. Increase in freedom. Therefore, freedom is development. Therefore, freedom is development, and development is freedom. That means imagine somebody who is very well educated, somebody is a very skilled labor. So that means, for example, an educated man and an uneducated man. Now, whatever the uneducated man is doing for a profession, that educated man can also do. But what an educated man is doing, that does not mean an uneducated man can do that. Okay? That means what? The educated man here has a lot of other options, lot of other freedom to either do this, that, or that. So capability means freedom. That's why he said that the aim should be to increase human capabilities. And in a welfare state, how are you increasing human capabilities? You are redistributing lot of resources within the country to more poorer people so that they have a good chance to improve in life, to get more capabilities, learn something to earn a living. Okay, so this means capability is a very essential factor, and this approach squarely applies here. Now, next idea is secularism. Uh, State maintains a principal distance from all religions, and does not uphold any single religion, as the state religion, as the state religion. It guarantees equal respect for all religion, and protects the rights of individual to profess, practice, and propagate their faith. Profess, practice, and propagate their faith. This means that government policies and actions must not be influenced by religious considerations. Must not be influenced by religious considerations, and administration must actively work on promoting communal harmony. Work on promoting communal harmony. Right, Rajiv Bhargava. Okay, Rajiv Bhargava हो गया. Rajiv Bhargava posits uh, that the Indian model allows for state intervention to address social evils to address social evils and to ensure equality between ensure equality between and within religious communities. Equality between and within religious communities. So whatever is Mr. Bhargava saying here, give me an example of this. Hmm. Are there any cases, Supreme Court cases that we can write down? Triple talaq is there. What else? That women can get property. Uh, but what else? What more? Something more profound out of gender. Triple talaq, Sabarimala, these are all there. But more profound. Something that started just after independence. Yes, temple entry movements. Okay, that you allow lower caste to access the temple. It breaks the barrier within a religious community. Right. So this creates that secularism does not mean that church and state should be separate. It means that here in India, state plays an active role in reforming religion. Yes, the morality, the idea of morality in the Indian constitution should not be, or morality in Indian governance or Indian social system should not be just by customs or whatever is being followed since time immemorial. The morality should be constitutional morality. That means the moral values, the moral signs according to which India should be ruled, should be drawn from the embedded values of the constitution. Okay? That means all forms of equality that are there. Okay? Then right, another next value, justice. Justice, social, economic, and political. Where is this written? These four words: justice, social, economic, and political. Preamble, it's written. Good. Preamble, you should. I, I believe you should start multiple times reading the preamble. So whenever you get stuck in a question, write something from the preamble. It will be relevant. Not in, I mean, in relevant questions. Not in a scientific question. You write preamble. You expect uh, justice, that is social, the social justice. Right? Social justice, the elimination of discrimination, the elimination of discrimination, creation of a more equal society, particularly for historically, particularly for disadvantaged groups. Historically disadvantaged groups. So, what is an example of this? How is social justice promoted in India? Good. Then write down economic justice. Now, this is reducing the gap between rich and poor and ensuring that economic system does not result in the concentration of wealth and means of production. Concentration of wealth and means of production. This means more equitable distribution of wealth. And then comes political justice. This means every citizen have equal political rights and access to political processes. Political rights and access to political processes. The pursuit of justice is a fundamental goal of governance. So in GS4 also, whenever you see what is the philosophical foundation of good governance, this is the philosophical foundation of good governance. Justice. Justice is the very reason for why uh, governance is being done. Okay, what is the role of governance? Because without governance, there will be a systemic failure of law and order. Economy will not rise. Even if it rises, it will be very much exploitative in nature. Okay, women and children can be sold into slavery, in prostitution, etc., etc. This means what? Justice ensures governance is more humane in nature. It protects certain human values. Okay? So this is the philosophical premise of good governance. Right, Granville Austin described the Indian Constitution as a social document. As the social document, as a social document, he argued. He argued that the core of the commitment to the social revolution, commitment to the social revolution lies in the trinity of the preamble, lies in the trinity of the preamble, fundamental rights, and DPSP. Uh, uh, and DPSP. Uh, uh, next value is liberty and equality. Liberty and equality. The Constitution guarantees liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, which are essential. Belief, faith, and worship. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, which are essential. They're essential for the development of the individual, and the nation. And next is equality. It ensures equality of status and opportunity, and prohibits discrimination on grounds of religion, race, grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, caste, sex, or place of birth. Professor Upendra Bakshi talks about the transformative potential. Professor Upendra Bakshi talks about the transformative potential of the Indian Constitution. He argues that the judiciary, through its interpretation of fundamental rights, through its interpretation of fundamental rights, has expanded the scope of liberty and equality, comma, holding the administration, accountable to these constitutional values. Accountable to these constitutional values. Now, what is the difference between term like liberty and freedom? Hmm? Liberty means freedom, or freedom means freedom to do anything we want. Okay? Liberty means that there should be some limitation. We should not cross a line. Okay, yes. So you should remember this difference, that liberty is freedom with certain limitations. That means freedom would mean absolute freedom. It's like a state of nature. Anybody can kill anybody, anybody can rob anybody, anybody can steal anything. But liberty means we agree to give up some forms of freedom so that all of us are more freer. Okay? So that we agree that we won't harm anybody. Okay? This means we have given up some forms of our freedom. We have limited our freedom to increase freedom for all. Yes? Or else, if we only go through freedom, that means whoever is strong and powerful, only their will be exercised. Yes, that means freedom for a very few selected few of people. When it comes to liberty, liberty ensures freedom is more grounded, is more democratic in nature. Okay? Next is fraternity, value. Fraternity or spirit of common brotherhood, or the spirit of common brotherhood, is crucial for a diverse country like India. Crucial for a diverse country like India. It aims to assure the dignity of the individual. It aims to assure the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. The unity and integrity of the nation. Dr. Ambedkar stated, quote, without fraternity, without fraternity, liberty and equality, without fraternity, liberty and equality cannot or could not become a natural course of things. Without fraternity, liberty would destroy equality, liberty would destroy equality, and equality would destroy liberty. Unquote. Without fraternity, liberty would destroy equality, and equality would destroy liberty. What does fraternity means? It means a common brotherhood, feeling that whenever you read a news, for example, I don't know how old you guys were when Mumbai attacks happened. You guys must be really small. How old were you guys? 2008 Mumbai attacks. Four, four, four. So too young. But any terrorist incident that happens, for example, Manipur violence. Whenever we read about Manipur violence, might, we might not have been to Manipur or have, uh, I mean, we might not belong from Manipur, but it still pains us, right? Why? Because we see our own countrymen dying or suffering. Okay? Similarly, if somebody gets lynched or some riots happen somewhere, or any human rights violation happened, any kind of genocide happens, even around the world, we feel that kind of pain as a human, right? Why? Because there is a sense of brotherhood, okay, within humans, that whatever happens anywhere, it pains us. Some of you might remember exactly this was during 2015, 2016. A lot of tensions were going on between India and Pakistan back then. But what happened was, there was a school in Pakistan where terrorists went inside and gunned down people, students, little kids were, I mean, shot down in cold blood. A lot of students died, about 50, 60 students died. And I remember in school that time, all of us, we observed a uh, almost 4 or 5 minutes of silence because of this, and a prayer because of this. This shows that this sense of fraternity, that even if on other times, and there are a lot of differences even within the country we might have, yes, but there are some things that transcends a lot of things, yes. So this fraternity is that idea that keeps a country together. Okay? So that is why the very idea of fraternity is important, and that is why fraternity has been categorically stated in the preamble of India. Yes. Now, in the Constitution, in four places, write down that in Constitution, these philosophical ideals in the Constitution have been mentioned in the preamble, of course, which acts as a in the preamble, which acts as a moral compass for administration and to interpret the Constitution. Next source are the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights. These rights, they define the limits of the authority of the administration and the rights of the citizens they serve. And the rights of the citizens they serve. The next source are the directive principles of state policy, BPSP. They lay down they lay down the social and economic goals that the state should strive to achieve. Moral and that state should strive to achieve. They are the moral. They are the moral and social conscience of the Constitution. Moral and social conscience of the Constitution, and guide the administration in its policy formulation, and implementation. Formulation and implementation. ठीक है? Next comes fundamental duties. They are also a source. They are intended. They are intended to promote a sense of discipline. To promote a sense of discipline and commitment to the nation's values. And commitment to the nation's values. For administration, they serve as a reminder. Serve as a reminder of their duty to uphold the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India, and to promote harmony amongst its people. And to promote harmony amongst its people. We have covered the words of preamble. Uh, Next, we have to write other philosophical foundations. Basically, what values guide administration. Next point would be rule of law. So these are not exactly sourced from the constitution. These are much larger ideas. Next is rule of law. This principle asserts the supremacy of law. Supremacy of law. It means that no one is above the law. It means that no one is above the law, including the government. Including the government. All administrative actions must be sanctioned by law. and must be exercised in accordance with legal procedures. In accordance with legal procedures. It acts as a powerful check against arbitrary use of authority by the executive. Authority by the executive. Right, AV Dicey identified or elaborated three key aspects of rule of law. Three key aspects of rule of law. AV Dicey elaborated three key aspects of rule of law. First is absence of arbitrary power. Absence of arbitrary power. Second, equality before the law. Absence of arbitrary power, equality before the law, and the primacy of the rights of the individual. Rights of the individuals. Article 14 of Indian Constitution, just write Article 14, talks about equality before law. Talks about equality before law. It guarantees that all persons are equal before the law. All persons are equal before the law and are entitled to its equal protection. To its equal protection. Okay? Now, understand something in Article 14, equality before law. So there are two concepts. Okay? Equality before law and equal protection of law. Equality before law and equal protection of law. Does any of you know the difference between this? And equal protection of law. Yes. So law is equal to all. Okay. First part is covered. Basically, law treats everybody equally. Everybody is equal in the eyes of law. What does the second principle mean? Equal protection of law. Sorry. Mm, somewhere you are beating around the bush. Rabe, Ojasvi, Surbhi. What is equal protection of law? Somewhat. Keep going and sometimes it will land. देखो If law would treat everybody equally, do you think inequality will be erased? If law says everybody is equal, and will treat everybody equally, whether you are rich, you are poor, will treat everybody equally. Is that reducing inequality? Hmm? How so? Basically, equality before law has a problem. That is why this concept emerged. I want to just arrive at that problem. For example, if everybody before a court of law, whether you are a rich or you are a poor man, and both of their lawyers are of similar capability, does court discriminate that okay, this is rich and this is poor, and I'll give judgment according to it? No, right? That is equality before law. But does it reduce the inequality between a rich and a poor? No, right? That means if the government says everybody is equal for us and will treat everybody equally, that means whoever is marginalized is less protected. Okay, historical injustices have happened against someone. That means government won't make any extra effort to uplift them. Government will just treat the rich and poor the same. Yes, this creates a problem because this creates or leaves behind a lot of social cleavages, and it in the long run leads to higher inequality. Equal protection law started as an American constitution, as an American idea that state will actively take part and uplift people from poverty. State will provide extra measures to strengthen the lives and opportunities to people who are marginalized. Equal protection of law means equality among equals. If you are equal in your social status and your economic status, we will treat you equally. If you are unequal, we will treat you unequally. That is the very premise on which ideas such as reservation is granted. That means law is trying to bring everybody at par, equal protection of law. So when you provide reservation, you are providing what? You are providing some people certain avenues to go ahead and do better in life. Whatever their forefathers did, they don't have to follow that. Okay. So when you break the through Article 17, you say that the act of untouchability is a criminal offense. Okay, so prohibition of untouchability, and you pass certain laws to protect the civil rights of people. This means what? This means you are providing certain extra protection to a person who is born a Dalit, and there is a threat that that person might be treated as an untouchable in some social circumstances. So you create an extra layer of protection for that individual. That you save that person from any kind of caste oppression that might happen against that person, right? That means you are treating that person special, but you are trying to uplift that person and bring it to the par to everybody else, right? That means equal protection of law. So, in equal protection, law might not treat everybody equally, but the purpose of law is to make everybody come to a certain level, come to a minimal level of human existence. So, that is why that is the problem of equality before law, of which equal protection of law solves. Okay? Equal protection of law is the basis for affirmative action or reservation as we know it. Are you able to understand now? Yeah. So this was equality before law or equal protection of law. So whenever you write rule of law, you introduce these ideas also. Okay. Uh, welfare orientation we have written under democratic socialism. Next idea, right? That what influences these philosophical basis or values of administration. Ideas of integrity and impartiality. Rule of law, you people understand clearly? Rule of law, is it clear? What is rule of law? Hmm? Law is the topmost, right? So basically, a quick explanation in case somebody misses out. Rule of law means mm, uh, law is supreme. Yes, Rabe. Perfect. So, do you think president is above the law? No. Do you think prime minister is above the law? Do you think chief justice of India is above the law? No, right? This means what? Everything in India is governed or is below the law. Do you think government is above the law? No, right? That means what? A constitution creates a government that enforces the law, but that government is not above the law. So any kind of authority that government is or the government has, it comes from law. So law gives out what do you say? Law is the source of that authority. Under whom did we study this under? Under Max Weber, there was an idea that we discussed: legal rational authority. Right? Legal rational authority means what? That authority in a system of when there are patrimonial systems or there are monarchical systems, the monarch is the source of power, and for the monarch, his lineage or military power is the source of power. But in modern day, it's not. Especially in a democracy like India, your source of power is not that the government controls the military. Yes. Do you think military is above the law? No, right? So there are armed forces tribunals because of this. That means everything can be tried and everything is can be reviewed by the judiciary. Why? Because law is supreme. Anything that the parliament passes, it goes through a process of judicial review. Why? That even if that the parliament has passed it, even they have democratic mandate, still it goes before the Supreme Court to be checked that whether it is constitutional or not. The constitutionality of the clauses are checked. Yes, this means what? This means it is ensured that it is within the bounds of law. Okay, rule of law. You all are clear with this? Because after a few minutes, we'll discuss something called constitutionalism, and this will come back. All right, integrity and what was it? Impartiality. The administration is expected to conduct itself with highest standard of ethical conduct, highest standard of ethical conduct, and to make decisions and to make decisions based on merit, decisions based on merit, free from any partisan, free from any partisan, political or personal bias, political or personal bias. This is the bedrock. This is the bedrock of a professional and politically neutral civil services. And politically neutral civil services that serves the government of the day faithfully. That serves the government of the day faithfully, regardless of its political ideology. Regardless of its political ideology. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Sardar Patel referred to the civil services, referred to the civil services as a steel frame of the country as a steel frame of the country. His vision was of an impartial, independent bureaucracy, that would provide stability, and unbiased advice to elected officials, thereby ensuring the integrity of governance. Thereby ensuring the integrity of governance. Last few things you write, then we'll take a break. So I'll have to give these incentives to you, I believe, given the amount of writings you are doing. But paper two is like that, man. I mean, there's not a lot of conceptual things. Just have to write things down. Transparency and accountability. Next idea or value that influences the administration is transparency and accountability. Transparency implies that and actions decisions and actions of the government are open to public scrutiny. Now read this line about transparency and give me an example. Decision and actions of the government are open to public scrutiny. What is the example of this in the present day Indian context? Very simple, RTI. Other things? What other thing? Okay. What else? Where have we discussed this dashboard of Niti Aayog? Have we discussed in class? In which one? Financial administration. And ah, techniques of administration. We'll do Niti Aayog very soon. हाँ, ट्रांसपेरेंसी हो गया. Then write accountability. Accountability means that public officials are answerable for their actions and performance. Are answerable for their actions and performance. These twin values. Are crucial. These twin values are crucial for building public trust, and ensuring and a responsive administration. And ensuring a responsive administration. They empower the citizens. They empower the citizens to hold the government answerable. Hold the government answerable for its policies in their implementation. for its policies and their implementation. Let's take a 5 minutes break. have you guys got those notes on Unit 2? Paper on Unit 2, you got through Telegram or Telegram? Now, the next word that is used in your Unit 2 syllabus of Paper 2 is that constitutionalism. Okay? Now, what does constitutionalism mean? Let's have an overall picture first, and then we'll write down. Okay? Uh, First, let's understand what does a constitution mean. Okay? Now, a rough idea. What does a constitution would mean according to you? What should a constitution be? Or what is a constitution? Very rough idea. That ensures law and order. Okay? Document ensuring law and order. Supreme law of the land that ensures something such as law and order. You what guides the governance of a country. Okay? So a supreme law of the land that guides governance of the country, ensures law and order, things like that. So basically, constitution is basically a set of document that is supreme in that country. There is supremacy of the constitution. Okay? Now remember this term, supremacy of the constitution. This supremacy of the constitution is making sure what is there in that society or that country. Rule of law is there in that society. That law is supreme. Law is the source of all kinds of powers. Okay? So supremacy of the constitution is there. If constitution is supreme, this means what? Constitution, anything that is under the constitution has to work according to the constitution. Very naturally, very simple. That means if there is a government that is being formed through the supreme law of the land, a government that is drawing powers from the supreme law of the land, that government's functions are limited by this constitution. You understand? Now the government can't go ahead and think anything arbitrary and do that. Yes, government can't go ahead and do that. Why? Because the government's actions are limited by this constitution. So constitutionalism means government being limited by the constitution. That constitution is there. This constitution is supreme. This constitution ensures rule of law. And a government that is being formed and through this constitution is a government that is inherently limited by this constitution. That is why the government cannot exercise arbitrary power, or there cannot be arbitrary exercise of power. That's the correct term. This means what? Constitutionalism means a constitution that limits the power of the government. Okay, that means constitutionalism. Constitutionalism, if I say a country has constitutionalism, that means government is limited by a set of laws that is higher than it. Yes, government is also um, basically government is limited by the constitution. Whatever the state is limited by the constitution. Now, of course, you might ask, or question might come, that in some countries or in some situations, there are government, there is a constitution, and there is a government, but this government is not acting in accordance with the constitution. This might happen in countries such as dictatorships, military takeovers. Okay, especially if we see, given that India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan, we all have the British legacy of governance in common. That means, if we see, especially in present day Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, or India, we see forms of constitutionalism is there. Right? There are courts in the country that strike down the government's law or parliament's lawmaking power. But when we go to when we see Pakistan, we see its army having a significant amount of power. Yes, this shows that even if there is a constitution, we all of these countries had a constitution once they become independent. All of their constitutions were inspired by the Government of India Act of 1935. The similar beginnings of those constitutions. But can we say that there is constitutionalism in Pakistan? Not necessarily, because the army does a lot of arbitrary acts that are not very democratic in nature. So India and Pakistan are classic examples of something having constitutionalism and something not having constitutionalism. Now the government wanted to pass things such as the farm laws. Now the court put a block on that, put a stop on that. That means what? Even if Parliament wants it, if something is not very constitutional in nature, Supreme Court can stop it from being implemented. That means rule of law is there. So if there is constitutionalism, automatically there is rule of law, isn't it? So constitutionalism means a government that is limited by the constitution, and not necessarily if there is a constitution, there is constitutionalism. This is what we understand with this example of Pakistan. Okay? Now, do you think in Britain there is constitutionalism? That means there are courts of Britain that you go and you have any problem, they solve that problem. Okay? But do you think Britain has a written constitution like India has? Yes. Basically, their constitution is what? Those parliamentary cultures that have been going on. Okay, those customs that are being going on. So that means it is not necessary for a constitution to be written for there to be a constitution. It is not necessary that if there is a constitution, there will be constitutionalism. Yes, but if there is constitutionalism in a country, that means with constitutionalism, that country also has a lot of values such as rule of law. Yes, are you able to understand fundamentally what constitutionalism means? Okay, okay. Let's write a few things about constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is the political philosophy. Constitutionalism is a political philosophy based on the idea based on the idea that government authority should be limited should be limited by a body of fundamental law, that is a constitution. Limited by a body of fundamental law, that is constitution. It is not merely the existence of a constitution. It is not merely the existence of a constitution, but the adherence to its principles. But its adherence, uh, it's not, sorry, it is not merely the existence of a constitution, not merely the existence of a constitution, but the adherence to its principles in both letter and spirit. In both letter and spirit. In both letter and spirit. The core idea is the limitation. The core idea is the limitation of governmental power. It's the limitation of governmental power. It implies that government must operate under the law. The government must operate under the law, not above it. Under the law, not above it. This principle stands in contrast. This principle stands in contrast to arbitrary or absolutist rule. To arbitrary or absolutist rule, where the power of the sovereign is unchecked and absolute. Guys, I just need to take a call. Sorry. What all did we do? This principle stands in stark contrast to arbitrary or absolutist rule, where the power of the sovereign is unchecked, where the power of the sovereign is unchecked and absolute. In essence, full stop, in essence, constitutionalism ensures that states power is defined, limited, and accountable, thereby protecting the rights and freedoms of the individual. rights of the individual. Now, next, right, what are the essential features of constitutionalism? What are the essential features of constitutionalism? Surbhi, are you able to understand everything? Are you comfortable with the subject now? Nothing. Supremacy of the constitution. First essential feature is the supremacy of the constitution. That constitution is the supreme law of the land, and all organs of the government, that is executive, judiciary, legislature, judiciary, derive their existence, derive their existence and authority from it. Any law passed, any law passed or action taken by any of these organs that contravenes the constitution, these organs that contravenes the constitution is deemed unconstitutional, and void. Contravenes the constitution is deemed unconstitutional and void. The next principle is rule of law. Just write down the rule of law. The same as I have dictated above under rule of law. Next point you write separation of power. Essential feature of constitutionalism, separation of power. To prevent the concentration of power, concentration of power in a single authority, constitutionalism advocates for a functional distinction. Constitutionalism advocates for a functional distinction among the three branches of the government. Among the three branches of the government. While India does not have a rigid separation of power, while India does not have a rigid separation of powers, because the executive is drawn from the legislature, it maintains a clear functional separation. It maintains a clear functional separation, and most importantly, it ensures an independent judiciary. It ensures an independent judiciary. Now, under this point of separation of power, tell me why this independent judiciary is required for constitutionalism. For constitutionalism. But what is the role of judiciary? That means the judiciary is the final interpreter of the constitution, right? So the judiciary determines what exactly is uh, allowed in the constitution or not. What exactly is constitutional or not. So next point, the extension of this point would be something called a judicial review. Judicial review. It is a crucial mechanism. It is a crucial mechanism for enforcing constitutionalism. For enforcing constitutionalism, it is the power of the courts. It is the power of the courts to review the action of the legislative, review the actions of the legislative and executive branches, and to review the actions of the legislative and executive branches to ensure their compliance with the constitution. To ensure their compliance with the constitution. If an action is found to be unconstitutional, if an action is found to be unconstitutional, the court can strike it down. In Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, in Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, the Supreme Court established the basic structure principle or basic structure doctrine. The Supreme Court established the basic structure doctrine holding that even the parliament's power to amend the constitution, even the parliament's power to amend the constitution is limited and cannot be used to alter its fundamental features and cannot be used to alter its fundamental features. The next essential feature of constitutionalism are fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are the next essential features. A constitution typically includes a charter of rights. A constitution typically includes a charter of rights. Charter of rights that are considered fundamental. That are considered fundamental to a free and dignified human life. That are considered fundamental to a free and dignified human life. These rights act as these rights act as explicit limitations limitations on the power of the state. On the power of the state. Simultaneously, power of the state, just that. Don't write anything else. Last point, right? Accountability mechanisms. This is the last feature of constitutionalism. Accountability mechanisms. Constitutionalism requires that government. Constitutionalism requires that the government be accountable for its actions, accountable for its actions. This is ensured. This is ensured through various independent institutions such as the Election Commission in conducting free and fair elections, Election Commission in conducting free and fair elections. Next, parliamentary oversight through committees and debates. Parliamentary oversight through committees and debates. Financial accountability through bodies like CAG, like the CAG. Financial accountability through bodies like the CAG, Controller and Auditor General of India. कहाँ तक लिखा है? Financial accountability through institutions such as the CAG. The CAG. Okay. In conclusion, write a idea of a scholar so that you can use it in your paper. Right? Madhav Khosla argues that Indian constitutionalism is distinctively transformative. Is distinctively transformative. He notes that unlike many Western constitutions, he notes that unlike many Western constitutions that were designed primarily to limit an already existing state, that were designed primarily to limit an already existing state, the Indian constitution was also designed to create a new, the Indian constitution was also designed to create a new democratic state, and fundamentally transform an unequal hierarchical society. An unequal hierarchical society. It aims to bring about a social revolution through law. It aims to bring about a social revolution through law using the power of the state to dismantle age old structures of caste and patriarchy and to foster the principles of liberty, foster the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Liberty, equality, and fraternity. ठीक है? Shincho, what are you? Have you covered fundamental rights, essential features, triplet. Of law. ठीक है, we have enough for constitutionalism. You want to write more or do you want to solve some questions? We'll discuss questions of course, but how much more to write? You have written essentially 9-10 pages. Huh? Uh, let's uh, let's discuss some questions. Huh? Too much heavy today. Let me take out the questions. Write down a question. Constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is the foundation of good governance. Constitutionalism is the foundation of good governance, the quote unquote. Discuss its relevance in Indian administration. Discuss its relevance in Indian administration.
Overall, you don't have to write the whole answer, but give me the ideas that you'll write. And we'll have to discuss.
Yeah, fine. Give me a second. I'll only write. You know that. I just have to jot down a few things. Do any of you remember in which judgment free and fair election was part of a basic structure? I guess SRO may. Don't remember. It's probably SRO may only. Hmm. Marxism, social democracy. Social democracy. Ah, start telling me what all have you written. What all have you written? Answer. Body separation of power, rule of law, judicial review. Yes, Rabe, but of course these are principles you have written correctly. Um, how do you answer the question? How is it relevant for Indian administration? But how do these things apply? वो लिखो. हाँ, बताओ. Tell me, Bhavan. Hmm. Sorry. Relevance in Indian administration, na. So, see, I believe the way to structure this is a better way to structure this. I have done is, for example, we write down principles. Okay, what is the first principle of good governance? Very important principle of good governance. सब छोड़ो. What is the philosophical foundation of good governance? Hmm? Constitutionalism. If constitutionalism is the basis of good governance, what is the foundation of constitutionalism? What is constitutionalism ensuring? Democracy, right? So first principle is democracy. To democracy. Okay? Now what are the three types of democracy we just studied? Hmm? One type of is that, okay, but that's socialism's answer. What are three types of democracy we studied? So, for example, in justice, what are the three kinds of justice that we studied? Social, economic, political. Huh? Democracy and then justice. Now, these two ideas, let's take social, economic, and political. Now, what does social democracy would mean? Wherever there is social justice, social democracy will come to fore. Similarly, economic democracy means economically everybody is almost at an equal footing. Okay? Everybody has economic opportunities to move forward in life. And political democracy or political justice would mean, so basically through all of these, whenever justice is coming, this form of democracy is coming out. Okay? So these are both sides of the same coin. Now within this, if we expand these ideas, if we think that where does social justice and through social justice social democracy is coming in Indian administration, its relevance to Indian administration. Constitutionalism is the foundation of good governance. Okay? So this is one feature of constitutionalism. This is constitutionalism ensuring all of these things. Where is this coming from? How is this translating? So to ensure social justice and social democracy, how does this get transformed into Indian administration in real life? Social justice, we discuss things such as the temple entry movement. Right? So in Indian administration, social justice is ensured when the marginalized classes are let into the temple. Okay? So that is one form of social justice, and this ensures social democracy. Why? Because democracy is not just going ahead and voting. Democracy means people having some form of equality amongst each other, and people are themselves governing themselves. Okay, that is the first thing. Secondly, when it comes to economic justice or economic democracy, how does that translate? Think. So the very idea of economic justice, or what do you say, economic democracy, is ensured by this very idea of democratic socialism that we ensured. That whatever resources we have, we redistribute it amongst ourselves. That means the very idea of welfare state comes from, or welfare states ensure economic democracy, economic justice, and through this economic democracy is established. Okay? So this will be welfare state, and in welfare state, where does an Indian administration things such as welfare state look into, such as the PDS system? Yes, or giving certain free health insurance till 5 lakh rupees, basic, right? So these are the examples of welfare state. Subsidization of railway ticket, that is an free electricity and free education to girl child. Okay? This shows these are methods to ensure social, economic, and political justice. Let's say political justice. Within political justice, how is political justice ensured? Through free and fair election and letting the voters be informed about their political decisions, being informed enough to take an informed decision. So, for example, the electoral bond case. So here in paper 2, very well you can write all of these judgments and all that you come across, committee recommendation, whatever you write. So just electoral bonds case. In this case, what happened? The government said that whoever is giving money to the government, this should be publicly available. And if you are not making this publicly available, this means we don't know that behind the back of the public, which industry is helping the government, and government is scratching the back of that particular company, right? So this creates a crony capitalism. This creates the chances of a crony capitalism, that capitalists control the political class, and political class is acting in the interest of capitalists. This is what the very idea of Karl Marx was, right? Now, this particular case, it strikes down electoral bonds, methods of electoral bonds, and it says that everything needs to be transparent in nature. Whoever is contributing, you have to show. Now, moving on. What is the second idea? So these things we just write in one line. Okay? We don't need to elaborate that much. What is the next principle of constitutionalism? Separation of power. ठीक है. Separation of power. Perfect. So separation of power is ensuring what? जैसे कि executive. So we need the executive. For example, let's take the permanent executive. Right? We also need permanent executive to be somewhat insulated from the political executive and the legislature. We don't want, if a particular administrative officer is working, we don't want that his work is being influenced by the MLA of that region. Okay, that means we need some level of buffer, some level of protection for that. So that's why separation is also very important with relevance to Indian administration. Similarly, in Indian administration, judicial review is very much important for us to ensure things such as I'm just ruining your copy. But it's a mental map. You'll also benefit from this. Where was I? Judicial review. Okay. Why am I writing here? So judicial review. Okay, within judicial review ensures that these administrative processes are transparent in nature and holds the executive accountable. Okay, so this is the extension of something called separation of power. So that is one form. Secondly, separation of power also ensures that executive is responsible to the parliament or the legislature, right? So this ensures that democratic mandate is with every policy. So no policy is according to the whims and fancies of the government. All right? Everything goes through the scrutiny of publicly elected officials. Okay? And whatever is being passed is judicially reviewed also. So administrative actions, legislative actions are administratively are reviewed here. Checks and balances, yes. What is the next thing? Its relevance in Indian administration. Okay? After separation of power, let's take a rule of law. Next principle. So basically, we are taking principle from constitutionalism and we are bringing it down to the relevance of Indian administration. Okay? That is the structure that we are following. Other structures also you can follow. But this is what came to my mind. Next is Manlo rule of law. So with rule of law, how does constitutionalism is ensured? How is rule of law relevant to Indian administration? What does rule of law do? Hmm. Okay. Prevents arbitrary exercise of power from the administration. Okay. Prevents arbitrary exercise of power, and this protects what of citizens? The fundamental rights of citizens. Okay. So you use these ideas in a flow. It prevents arbitrary exercise of power, protects fundamental rights of citizens. So this is also a principle of constitutionalism. Now, within the rule of law, what else can happen within the rule of law? Or rule of law ensures what other thing? Rule of law ensures justice and democracy. How does it ensure justice and democracy in India in real life? That it brings, so whatever the law is made in India, the constitution, it is given by whom? The Constituent Assembly. It represented the people of India. That means people of India gave to themselves that constitution. So it ensures democracy and accountability of the administration. This particular thing also. Next thing, transparency, fundamental rights, DPSP. What else? What else is relevance to Indian administration? In the rule of law, we can write other things also. Yes, Rabe. No one is above the law. What more? Rule of law. Indian administration. You write that other features such as law and order administration. So when it comes to administration, think from perspectives of different institutions. Think from how election commission functions. Think from how the CAG functions. Okay, in terms of accountability and transparency, you can write directly what CAG does, right? After CAG, you think about what police administration does, what revenue administration does. Okay, so you think from these institutional perspectives also. So if you think from the police perspective, law and order, in Indian perspective, what it does, for example, a riot is happening. Does the religion of the police officer matter? No, right? Because there is rule of law. The police officer, while doing public duty, won't favor one religion over the other when it comes to stopping a riot. This is what we ideally want the police to behave. So, law and order administration, that's also an example. Also, when it comes to rule of law, one judgment that you have to write in any paper, be it public administration, any GS, whatever you write, is Menka Gandhi versus Union of India. Okay? Menka Gandhi versus Union of India, you just write down that it prevents the arbitrary exercise of power, whatever rule of law example you definition you remember, you just write it down. Menka Gandhi versus Union of India. It shows what? It protects the fundamental rights of citizens. That fundamental right for Menka Gandhi to go outside India. Basically, do you remember? Do you all know this case? Menka Gandhi versus Union of India. No. Hmm. In the constitutionalism, you should know it. Let me tell you. In GS2, you haven't studied Menka Gandhi. You must have forgotten. Versus Union of India. You all know who Menka Gandhi was or is. She's the daughter-in-law of Indira Gandhi. Okay? Why are you laughing? uh, Wife of Sanjay Gandhi. What was the case? You keep it with yourself. Thanks. Menka Gandhi versus Union of India. Promote transparency in RTI Lokpal. Yes, yes. Good example, Rabe. Ex-MP, yes. See, this case, this was 1980s. So her passport was impounded by the passport authority and she was not allowed to go outside of India. Okay? Now, the passport authority did not give any reason for not giving her passport. Okay? And she was not allowed to go outside India. The fundamental right of, what do you say? Article 19 says uh, the freedom of movement inside any liberty to go to any place in India, within India. Yes? This also means liberty to go outside of India. If you want to leave the country, you should have the freedom to do so, right? Now, if you impound somebody's passport, that person cannot move out of India. If you do not give any reason for the impounding of the passport, that means that is arbitrary exercise of power. Rule of law is not there, and constitutionalism is threatened. Matter went to the Supreme Court because fundamental right was violated. It can directly go to the Supreme Court. Okay? Article 32, it can directly go to the Supreme Court. What happened was Supreme Court laid down a few guidelines, okay, that any action of the government is open to judicial review. Okay? Judicial review, it's open to judicial review. Secondly, the administration or the executive cannot act arbitrarily. So basically, it took a case but laid down a lot of guidelines that how executive should function. Thirdly, there should be a rule of law should be ensured, and any administrative action it has to be on the basis of constitutional principles. It cannot be according to whims and fancies of the officer sitting there. Okay? So in Menka Gandhi case, so it started with a passport impounding, but basically the Supreme Court stretched this matter into a lot of areas of fundamental rights of people and personal liberty of people. So personal liberty, the major principle behind this case was personal liberty cannot be taken away without due process of law. Yes. Uh, Article 13, you all have not done constitution yet. You have done. You hope that you have done. You have done, right? So, Article 13 or not done. Article 21. So under Article 21, there is only one line in Article 21 that for any citizen, life and liberty cannot be taken away until and unless through procedure established by law. Okay, that if law has prescribed a procedure to take somebody's life or liberty, that is the only method to take somebody's life and liberty. Procedure established by law. Now, there are two differences that you need to understand. Uh, these differences we'll have to discuss in next class. It will take a long discussion. Uh, hmm? Detention. Whose detention? 21A. 21A तो एजुकेशन है. अरे मैं गलत गलत पढ़ा दिया क्या दिखाओ. अरे हाउ कैन आई टीच दिस अंडर 21A? ने 22 के लिए लिख दिया है. So Rabe is asking, what is the real role of CSAT in UPSC? Rabe, I think it's aptitude. So Rabe is asking, have you guys read or something? Huh? how come you are laughing without reading it? Rabe, you actually have fans in class, right? So basically, Rabe is asking, what's the real role of CSAT in UPSC to test aptitude or to test our patience? So what is the answer on this? Aptitude. It's aptitude, Rabe. I believe I am testing his patience. Any other questions, Rabe? Okay, okay. ठीक है, चलते हैं. क्या